Hospital Porter's pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to her Panwo TV and welcome to this video I'm making now called Alien Invasion next week. I'll tell you all about it in a minute. But first of all, before we begin properly, I've just got a little interlude I want to insert into the video at this point. It's kind of a popular request.
Okay, before I start this video properly, I'm just going to show you a close-up view of my studio area because a lot of you have asked me about this. What are these things I've got behind me? Well, pride of place, of course, is my Hospital Porter's uniform, which I've kept. And on here we have posters of various events that I've done or been to. This talk on Helen Duncan I actually presented here back in Nottingham back in 2015. The Scottish UFO Paranormal Conference. Bases 2016 International Conference and Film Festival, Warminster 2015. I'm not going to go into details about these events. There's videos about them and articles on my channel and blog. If you want to know more about that picture, go to the video I made called William Blake's Grave. This is one of Timothy Good's books. I think this is the last one he wrote actually before his retirement. Earth, an Alien Enterprise. The shocking truth behind the greatest cover-up in human history. Yeah, this is my East Anglia UFO Group certificate of appreciation for a talk that I did, signed by good old Tony B, who's now left us, of course. And you come along here. This one, it's not a seat anymore. I just use it for storage. Ignore the lettuce and celery and things. That's my detox grocery shopping. Lord of the Rings. I'm reading that again for the same reason I rewatched the films. Now, this pile of books here, they're sort of sitting behind me when I'm sitting here, so it doesn't really make much difference. But we've got here the book No Easy Day, and a flyer from the Don Jolly Conspiracy Tour, and Sidney Sheldon's The Doomsday Conspiracy. I've actually, those are props, basically, or material for previous videos that I've kept for some reason. And I haven't, well, maybe I couldn't decide whether to get rid of them or to keep them, and they've sort of been sitting behind me there for months. Alright, and up here we have like the Phenomena magazine flyer there, and that is my speaker's badge from Probe. It's a very, very precious piece of memorabilia. That is very precious indeed. Need to know, that's one of Timothy Good's best books, Beyond Belief by George Norrie. I picked that up from Stairway to the Stars. If you watch my film Meadows, I've done an entire reportage of that wonderful conference. Lapis, the Lancashire Anomalous Phenomena Investigation Society, that's their badge there. UFOs there, UFO Flying Saucer. We have here East Anglia UFO Group again, and warning, stay away. Alien Zone. Russell put that up, didn't he? Again, Roswell 70, Dreaming Saucers, these two events in Oxford that I sort of organised in the best way I could. Now down here I've got lots of copies of The Light, which is by far the best newspaper in the world. And it was not a whole copy of the UK column. They don't even do print media anymore. So that's quite a what's the word? Quite rare. It's an antique. Got some books here. The Rendlesham file by Andrew Pike. It's not bad. Got some more books down there. That's not really part of my studio area. I just store them there. And of course, the Trump hat. And here, Boris Johnson, make Britain independent again, get Brexit done. You may wonder why I keep that when, of course, as you know, I've turned totally against Boris. Happy memories of happier times when I did put my faith in this man. I thought he could be our Trump, and he wasn't. And of course, this here is Resist, Defy, Do Not Comply. I think I got that from Mark Devlin. Up here we have two pictures of Boudica. This was done by Liz of the Crafty Nihilist, who is an artist. By the way, she's selling some of her stuff. If you're interested, I'm going to pick up something from her pretty soon. And another picture of Boudica there. Crop circle sticker. And of course, Alien Stock Festival. Rachel Nevada, the little alien. Now, again, if you watch Meadows, you'll know how I managed to get hold of that sticker. It's very, very interesting. Lovely sticker, lovely piece of... lovely souvenir to remind me of my brilliant conference and the time I went to Area 51. So yeah, so that, ladies and gentlemen, is my studio area in detail.
Well, so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is my studio area. I hope that solves a few mysteries for you and addresses a few problems that you may have been pondering over. Anyway, so let's go into this video now right away. Now, this video is actually a follow-up video in a way. It's a follow-up video to one I made recently. In fact, it's the last video I made at the time of recording, called UK Drone Attacks Live Stream. This is kind of like an extra one. I was actually going to do this maybe tomorrow, but then I suddenly realized I don't really have time tomorrow, and there is a time limit involved in this, which I will go into. The reason why I have to get this video done by a certain time because, well, there's a deadline to this. Something's happening next week, which, well, the clue kind of gives it away, doesn't it? Next week, there might be an alien invasion. I'm not kidding. But anyway, some of you may be wondering, well, what's this picture behind you? Because I always choose an appropriate background for my recordings and my live streams whenever I do them on StreamYard. Well, this is actually an album cover. It's an album cover. Let me just get this right. I do have it in here. Okay, it's an album cover. The album is called Black Holes and Revelations, and it's by Muse. Muse being a very famous band. I mean, you may remember they were played at the Olympics opening ceremony in 2012, which is kind of relevant actually, as you'll find out later on. Black Holes and Revelations is an album by Muse. And this cover on the album, I do recommend listening to it. One track in particular I think you should look at. Now, this is one of it's one of the filler tracks. It was never actually released as a single. There's no video that goes with it. There's a few amateur ones going around which have been put together by fans, but the band themselves never produced a video for it. It's called Exopolitics. I'm not kidding. It's called Exopolitics, and that is very, very. If you listen to the song, especially even read the lyrics list, I mean, you'll find it's very relevant to what we're going to talk about today, which is about alien invasion and what it actually means. Now, before we go any further, I'm afraid there's some drama. There's been some drama that I have to address. I don't like doing this. It's not in my nature, but sometimes needs must. Now, this involves an individual you may be familiar with. This piece of drama, I'll just share screen now and show you. Some of you may remember that I did I wrote this article here back in March called New Skeptic UFO Film, which was a feature-length documentary starring this guy, Brian Dunning. And here's my review of it. Now, it's called the UFO movie They Don't Want You to See, which it's a slightly misleading title because I don't think anyone gives a damn whether you see it or not. But I wasn't very impressed with this film. In fact, I did a documentary. I did a documentary review here. In this particular article, which I wrote just a couple of days later, this was on the 3rd of March. I did this particular video here on Panmo TV on the 5th of March, UFO Disclosure 2024, Where Do We Go From Here? In which I do a review of that particular documentary by Brian Dunning. If you don't want to read this and you can't be bothered to read this, fair enough. I cover it in this video here, UFO Disclosure 2024, Where Do We Go From Here? Anyway, that individual, Brian Dunning, has made he's made a bit of a name for himself in the last couple of days, actually, because he, some of you may know that Emily Trim died. James Fox released this tweet here. Emily Trim, to my right, this is this young lady here, this is from James Fox, is one of my favorite witnesses from one of my favorite CEE cases, the Ariel School in Ruhr, Zimbabwe. I've done many videos about this, including a reply to Steve Mumbling. This was a very special moment to witness as the children, now adults, got together 20 years after the encounter for a shoot as part of our documentary, The Phenomenon. It's actually 30 years now, so this was a while ago. Emily was an incredibly talented, brave, intelligent, kind, and passionate. Emily helped change the course of history. I just found out she'd passed earlier today. May we all say a prayer for her and the family she left behind. Godspeed, Emily. It's true, Emily Trim did die. She died at the age, I think she was in her late 30s, like all these supposed childhood pranksters are. And she had an illness which took her life. And there is, I won't show it to you, but I have tweeted the page from the Undertakers, and there's a memorial page for her which I have tweeted if you want to see it there. I won't actually show it on this video though. Anyway, James Fox released this very very touching tribute to Emily. This was 10 years before she died, and Brian Dunning had to wade in. Brian Dunning, this fucking piece of shit. I've got to be careful what I say, right? Because you'll see my comment right there. If I really speak my mind here, this video will be deleted. But he says here, I wouldn't mind James Fox being an honest filmmaker and making money off BS storytelling films that he knows are BS, if he was honest about what he does, like most. But when he legit exploits people for his own games, some with mental illness, that's over the line. Zero respect. Oh, you fucking want. Oh, God. I'm outraged by this. Now, if you want to see, I left this comment here. You can see here, at Brian Dunning, even Elon would ban me for what I'd like to say to you. And James Fox, very decently, James Fox did a very decent, dignified, and very, very appropriate response here. Brian, if you want to pick a fight and criticize me, totally fine. Why don't you do it on a different thread? Because this one is about the death of a young and courageous woman. Where's your common decency, sir? Good. Exactly. And indeed, you can see most of these comments here are 100% on James's side. There's a few backslappers here, you can see here, and a couple of Dunning supporters here. I mean, as I said, I said it all here. Even Elon would ban me for what I want to say, and YouTube certainly would ban me for what I want to say about this. But Brian Dunning has really shown himself to be, somebody I disagreed with, and I watched his video with interest. I didn't have any personal feelings about him, but now I know that he is a disreputable and I think a pretty dishonest and heartless person. And that's all I can say within community guidelines on YouTube. I regard him now. This is very similar to what Andrew Johnson did to Ian R. Crane, who's going to come up later in this video. It's very similar to what he did to Ian R. Crane. And zero respect to you, Mr. Dunning. Shame on you. I think you're the one doing the exploiting here. You are attacking a man, as I said, on the wrong thread. Disagreeing, fine, but you're attacking him, and you're basically trying to compete with him over the corpse of a courageous young woman who's not even cold in her grave yet. You do realise, Brian, that some of Emily's family might be reading your crap, your poisonous, toxic diatribe here. I hope you think about that. I hope you delete this tweet. If you've got any sense, just delete this tweet, you wanker. All right, okay. So I'm glad I got that out of the way. Now, this, as I said, this is going back to the video I made before called UFOs. The drone attacks, UK drone attacks live stream, where, as you know, and do watch the video if you haven't yet, there's been a huge uptick in the number of UFO cases lately. A huge uptick. There's been a real swelling in a real I don't know if what you call it, a flap. I don't know if it's a local flap or a global flap. Certainly, we got a local flap here in the UK, in the east of the country, surrounding the RAF bases in Norfolk and Suffolk. It's a shame Tony B's not here, because this would be just up his street. As it is, I'm glad to say a lot of dedicated local researchers are there. A lot of researchers have gone to the area to try and get pictures of these things. And this relates to, well, firstly, people are wondering, why is this? And I did touch on this in the last video, that there may be some kind of events going to happen next week, and this is kind of a build up to that. First, I'll just show you. Mick West, of course, has been debunking all this. The Arizona case from yesterday might just be a combination of reflections and cars, and he has some pictures here. And indeed, there's some, oops, and they'll appear in a minute. But he has done some pictures here. He's gone to some of the Google Street Views of some of these areas, and the picture's not appearing. And he's claiming that these are a combination of reflections, and he says that's a reflection of that, or that's a reflection of that. And these arrows are all in the wrong place. But you see, there's some high mountains here in the background, and he claims that these are basically car headlights. Now, as I said, you go to this. You can go to this yourself as it happens. There's a video here. I'll just play for you.
Bullhead City, Arizona. This was an interesting little case. Someone saw these lights in Bullhead City, Arizona, seemingly in the sky, and thought they were UFOs. They took a video, which made them look even more like UFOs. The lights are real, but in addition to the real lights, there are also two different types of camera reflection. First, there's a destabilized sensor reflection. These appear 180 degrees from the light they are reflecting, and they shake around a lot as the stabilization works backwards for them, hence destabilized. Secondly, there's an offset reflection. This comes from having two flat covers over the lens, some kind of case with a camera protector, typically. The reflection is just a little way off the light. We see this on the house lights and also on the two UFOs. So you've got to ignore these extra reflections. That's not a real light. And this isn't part of a shape of a flying saucer, just a reflection of the bright lights. The UFOs look like they are up in the sky, but this location is looking down a hill. At the bottom, we see the lights of the city of Riviera, which end abruptly at the Colorado River, the border with Nevada. On the other side, there's Needle Highway and then just dark hills with dirt roads. We can see the light of some of the traffic on Needles Highway. Using the position of the city lights and the highway and the houses down the road, we can get a good fit for the photos. This shows us that the lights are actually on the hillside. If we add the roads,
well,
we can see that they seem to be on or near those roads.
I press pause. Yeah, I was going to say they're not on the hillside. He doesn't know for certain that these lights are produced by objects on the ground. They're just in the right direction. He doesn't know what the range is on these objects or these lights.
So the simplest explanation here, and one that several people have reached independently, seems to be that this was just the headlights of some off-road vehicles. The bright one at the top of the hill is facing the camera, the red lights are taillights, and we see the lights on the left are similar to the lights down on Needles Highway. It all seems to fit, so probably not any kind of advanced technology or aliens, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Well, he says unfortunately, you see, I mean, I think we've got to realise that Mick West, yes, I do follow him. He's a guilty pleasure of mine, but I do follow Mick West. Now, I should point out that he says unfortunately, and you often get this from skeptics. They say, well, I'd love this to be true. I wish it were true. You know, I'd love there to be ghosts and UFOs. I wish there was an afterlife so I didn't have to die and things like this. They'll say things like this. But, you know, when you actually get them and you get talking, you listen to what they have to say, it's pretty clear they don't actually wish that. They have an ideological commitment, an emotional ideological commitment, which is at least as powerful as my own or believers like me, towards their belief, their disbelief, or their belief in the opposite of ours, which is that these things that we believe in, people on our side, do not exist. It is ideological. I've done entire videos, or just go to my Skeptics portal and you'll see the videos I've made about this. Again, I'm trying to give references here, but there's just too many. But I can't really add very much to this except to go down here, and he has several different. Here's another one here. There are several different. See, he claims this is a reflection as well. And the X-Files. And he gets into our debates with people and arguments. I can't really add much that other people haven't already. I mean, there are a large number of people who comment on his videos, including me. And you know, they pretty kind of do the job I do. And I mean, to be honest, to be fair to him, if you're reasonable with him, he'll be reasonable with you. He's not like a dickhead. He's not like a troll. He won't just mouth off at you when you do something wrong. In fact, he might have replied to me. I'm just going to double check off camera. Just double check. Let's have a look. Someone's commented. Someone's just liked that. No, he hasn't replied, but I did leave. I'll show you the reply I left for him anyway. Let's just show you what I did here. That's the obituary to Emily Trim. I've retweeted that. James Fox actually retweeted that. That's about the alien. That's about the alien interview movie. Oh, this is good. An X-Files post. Told ya. Whoever did that. If someone does that in Oxford, I'll add it to my graffiti video. That is brilliant. Fox Mulder, Spooky Mulder was right all along. And nobody's getting shit this year. Did you all wake up? That was me. I didn't create that. That was me. And there's James. I retweeted James here. There's a Red Snapper. Red Snapper, I know on, of course, we know Red Snapper here on YouTube, don't we? And I actually retweeted. Even Elon would ban me for what I like to say to Brian Dunning. Yeah. Oh, this is, I reposted that. That's Lake and Heath. Just there's some more stuff over Lake and Heath. See, look. There's no soundtrack on that. But again, you know, this is the point I made to Mick West, because I retweeted Jay Anderson. I think I might have I mentioned this actually on the last video. What if there are some very influential, very powerful people who believe that the only way for humanity to come together is to manifest the perception of a bigger enemy than ourselves, a bigger threat than mankind's own reflection, a boogeyman of sorts, an invader? And as I mentioned back, I think I did cover this tweet in the last video. That's what we're going to address this time. And indeed, we are now back where we were before. Now, I'm just going to go to replies because Mick did actually post something. Here we go. Mick West. Here we go. A fundamental clue about the nature, I'm trying to do his voice. A fundamental clue about the nature of ufology is the disconnect between the story's details, often quite amazing, and what is seen in the photos and videos, never amazing. If all this is happening, eventually someone's going to get it on camera. It's been 80 years. And Rhiannon, just to answer your question, women and girls. All right, so I actually put a post here. It's had 4 impressions. Has anybody made a wedding photo that looks as good as how you remember it? People cannot always get good imagery when they are using ordinary cameras, and they are afraid or excited, hands trembling, etc. That's right. We don't all carry a Win Keach telephoto lens in our back pockets. These things often happen and spontaneously. We don't go looking for them. Often people, I say, are afraid, they're excited, their hands are trembling, etc., etc. So, you know, they say, look at that, isn't it amazing? Look at it. And all you see is this light bobbing around the screen. All right. Now we come on to the subject we're talking about here. As I touched on in the last video, there has been a theory going around that there's going to be an alien invasion next week, either Tuesday or Wednesday. Now, where does this come from? That's the question, and we're going to explore that today. So where does all this come from? Well, it basically comes from a video, or you can find, if you just Google it, you'll find it. Google Cliff High. Let me just share screen. It's basically this guy, Cliff High, and it says here, Cliff High predicted the Trump-Rogan interview as a temporal marker for a melee. He said his language models predicted that 39 days, there's no days here, 39 days after the Trump interview with Joe Rogan, some sort of melee would begin, possibly to do with war or with aliens or both. What do you guys think of this? And this is the video here. You can watch the whole thing here on Cliff High's YouTube channel here. But this refers to web bots. Now, believe it or not, Steve Mumbling's done a video about this. But I'll show you this, and we'll watch a little bit of this in a minute. I just want to talk a little bit about what he means by web bots. Now, Cliff High is this guy who created a system long ago in the late 90s, and a long time ago. It's his computer program, and the claim is that it can predict future events. Now, it does this by tracking keywords entered in onto the internet. So people enter certain words on the internet, it can predict the future. Now, this is true, and no one doubts this is true up to a point, because it gives you a clue of what's trending, to use a modern term. In fact, long before the internet, this was used. For example, people would go through old newspapers and things like that to pick out certain words, phrases, to gauge the general moral and mental zeitgeist of the public. And the original purpose of this was to predict stock market trends. So this was used very much by stockbrokers. In fact, as I said, the use of stockbrokers for doing things like this predates computers. They would read newspapers to find these things out. Now, the WebBot project, created by Cliff High and George Ewer, basically, it's basically a system which they never went into all the details of the algorithms and things like that. But they used to actually sell a lot of their predictions. But the bots did what in a much more efficient way than any number of people could do. Monitored news articles, blogs, forums, all kinds of internet chatter. And the words were assigned numeric values for emotional quantifiers. So it wasn't just the words themselves; it was how often they were used, and in the way they were being used in phrases. and in association with others, and in terms of dialogue. So it would be their impact, immediacy, duration, intensity, etc. This lexicon is dynamic and changes according to the shifts in emotional tension and how humans communicate these changes using the internet. As of 2008, this is just before this all kicked off, there are around 300,000 keywords in the lexicon with emotional context, which then were fed into what is today called an artificially intelligent model. Although the term AI wasn't used in computing back then, it was a science fictional term, but of course it was a simple AI system. Now they made a bit of a business out of this because they would sell information to various people. But I mean, Nexus magazine covered this because they gained a lot of notoriety during the 2012 system. They predicted that a lot of the things to do with 21st of December 2012 and the Mayan calendar. And we're all familiar with that. I've covered it in great details. They also predicted in December 2008, Vancouver in Canada would be destroyed by a giant earthquake. They predicted the US dollar would collapse in 2011 and that Israel would enter a nuclear war with Iran in 2011. Of course, this didn't happen, did it? It didn't happen. In fact, there's some news articles about this you can read talking about this sort of thing. So none of these things happened, but there's articles on the web bot. This is actually an interesting article I read here. I'll just show it to you. This one here. There's been a lot of hype lately regarding the web bots, and I'm really surprised there's almost no information about it available. It gives you a little information in. It says it does what search engines do. They crawl the web in the same way Google crawls it to catch new and existing websites and detect relevant keywords. But web bots do it a bit differently. While search engines are just indexing the web and creating a web directory, web bots are looking for trends with keywords relations they find. It's search for keywords standing out in a web document, but also take into consideration content preceding and following the keyword. This data is then analyzed by a linguistic tool to determine meaning. So does it work, and are web bots reliable? Well, it's kind of hit and miss. Sometimes you'll see things predicted correctly, sometimes not. I think the project is a really good initiative and can lead to great things. I'm under the impression that they interpret results in the same way we interpret a Nostradamus quatrain, which means that what the web bots are getting out of the internet is not very clear. Right, yeah, in other words, it's open to it's open to a subjective interpretation. Now, Nostradamus very famously was a 16th century doctor and sage who wrote a series of quatrains. These are kind of little four-line poems, essentially predicting the future. And, Nostradamus has been considered a prophet of the age. He predicted the French Revolution 200 years before it happened. He predicted World War II. He said the world will be destroyed in the 20th century and things like this. All kinds of things he supposedly predicted. However, there are some problems with that. So one of them is that Nostradamus was high on drugs when he was writing these quatrains. He took no one knows exactly what it is. He took a psychedelic mixture of nutmeg and other things, which he was a member of a secret mystery school. And so he wrote in this very abstract way. And people, for example, have said that Nostradamus predicted the Great Fire of London, because he said, in the year with three sixes, London will burn. Right. People say, well, that's 1666, the year with 3 6s. And the London did burn in the Great Fire of London of 1666. But we don't know what was going through Nostradamus' head when he wrote that. The year with 3 6s could have referred to the 66 from the Bible, meaning the number of the beast. He could have been thinking about that. We don't know. We don't know what he actually was thinking. That's the problem. Some people described it as reading tea leaves, so and stuff like that. It says here that he says it may be good at preventing terrorist attacks if there are a large number of people who know that something's going to happen and they're talking about it a lot online. It's possible that in a sense it can be used like that. It can be used if there's a large number of people thinking and talking about something which they're going to do. It doesn't have to be terrorists or anything malevolent. It could be something else. It could be like trends in the stock market. It could be new books and new things they like to see in the cinema, might give a filmmaker a clue about what to make and things like that. It could be just that. But there's not that much really you can say for certain, because firstly, these web bots have a certain amount of they have a certain amount of accuracy when it comes, like I say, to gauging public opinion. But actual prediction of future events, I mean, this is compared to reading tea leaves or the I Ching, the book of Chinese book of divination. It's been compared to other forms of divination. In other words, we don't know. Firstly, it'll make the data that comes in, that is the lexicon and the way the words and phrases are analyzed. All the bot does, it gives you these words and phrases. You looking at them could think they mean one thing. Someone else looking at them could think they mean something else. We don't know. Now, I haven't watched this I haven't. You see, the actual way that Cliff High actually reached this, I'm afraid I haven't watched this video yet, and I will. I'll try and watch it before the live stream, because by the way, I am doing a live stream on Tuesday night about this, and I'll put up a notice about this. We could even do a watch party of this possibly, but if it's not a copyright issue. I haven't watched this whole Cliff High video, but he does describe it in more detail about exactly how he came to this conclusion. How he came to this conclusion that there's going to be 39 days after the Trump Rogan interview that there would be an alien invasion, I don't know how as I said, we'll go into that in more detail in the live stream, but I've learned enough about web bots to know that it's all very subjective. Very often the data is not positive, especially when it comes to random events that are outside human control. Understandably, with things that are under human control, there is some accuracy, but for things outside human control, they're not. Like, for example, the 21st of December 2012, there was obviously an awful lot of people talking about it. The web bot predicted various disasters. This may have been simply because people's imagination had conjured up certain disasters, had conjured up certain disaster scenarios, not least rather substandard movies by Roland Emmerich as well, and the web bot was picking that up. If the web bot can make predictions in a way that goes beyond simply what people are writing online, how does it do it? We need to know that. Now, Steve Mumbling has done a video here. We're just going to watch a little bit of it, and believe it or not, I'm going to agree with him. Just spoiler alert.
Well, hello again, and as usual,
yeah, this is classic. I don't often agree with Steve Mumbling.
Expect to be making a video quite so soon. It's Sunday, 1st December 2024. And I'd like to thank, I think it was Steve Palmer, for bringing a video to my attention yesterday.
Steve Palmer.
On another YouTube channel. At least this guy makes the doesn't pretend to be a real professor.
I think he means Cliff High.
And he was saying that according to an AI prediction made back in 2009, there's going to be an alien invasion next week. Now, that's really quite specific, isn't it? All these predictions, it says there's going to be trouble in the Middle East at some time in the future. You know, stuff that's practically impossible to accurately predict.
Yeah, I mean, what he's meaning is that, of course, there's going to be trouble in the Middle East, because unfortunately the Middle East is a very volatile part of the world. And yeah, I mean, the nuclear war with Iran never came true in 2011. You know, people say, well, maybe it'll come true next year. And you don't need to be psychic to think there's a risk that nuclear weapons might be used in the conflict between Israel and Iran.
So anyway, this was made back in 2009. Apparently the trigger, there's always a trigger for predictions. And
it is interesting, actually, that, I mean, as I said, I've not watched Cliff High's video yet. I haven't had time. And I wanted to get this video done because otherwise I won't have time. But yeah, 2009 was a long time ago. Joe Rogan was still an MMA fighter back then. He didn't have a podcast or a TV show. How did they know he was going to interview Trump? How did they know? Why 39 days after the interview are they so certain there's going to be aliens fighting each other and aliens fighting the Air Force?
The trigger was that Joe Rogan would interview Donald Trump. Now, I can't remember if it was as the President of the United States or what, but there's been murmurings about Trump running for president since the 1980s.
Yeah, in 1987, he was on Oprah and he said he would like to be President of the United States.
You know, so anyone could pick that out of the air if they were remotely interested in American politics. As you can tell, it's early in the morning again. Well, I've been up well.
Late at night in my place, yeah.
Cicadas are up before me. So it's the clicking noise in the background, by the way, if you didn't see yesterday's video. Now,
by the way, Steve, little correction. The next Wednesday is actually the 4th of December. Not that makes it. It could be Wednesday, it could be Tuesday or Wednesday, but that's not the actual date.
Now, apparently this prediction was made by AI, and it said that Joe Rogan would interview Donald Trump, and 39 days after that, there would be an alien invasion. UFOs would be fighting each other in the sky. Didn't say alien spacecraft, to be honest, but
we watched that strange. Do you remember that strange Twitter video with that guy who looks like an alien himself, saying there'd be a battle between different flying saucers, flying saucer forces. So the two UFOs would be fighting each other. By the way, there's a scenario like that in my book, Roswell Rising: A Novel of Disclosure, available at all good bookshops now, priced £10. There was a scenario like that in that book, actually. But these two different alien species will be fighting each other on Earth. I'm not sure why they choose Earth as their theatre of conflict, but there you go. And that the air forces of the world would have to intervene and fight as well. Again, I don't know the details. Again, how the web bot came to that conclusion, such a specific conclusion, I don't know. That's something that has to be explained, and hopefully we'll get an explanation for that.
They would be fighting with American or terrestrial fighter aircraft, military planes. Now, personally, I think this is complete and utter rubbish. No one can predict the future. It's AI.
No, I think that's probably true, actually. I think this is rubbish, but we'll see. We could be wrong.
Certainly can't. I've looked at. I was looking at something in one of the newspapers fairly recently. AI was asked to produce an image of a typical woman from each American state.
Yes, true. Yeah, I saw that.
Now, if I can find that, I'll leave a link to it below. But it was
hilarious. Yeah, I've seen that. I won't go into it now, but it's quite amusing. These AI pictures of women from each of the US. Despite which state it is, almost all of them have one thing in common. They are morbidly obese and they're eating fast food. But apart from that, they have various attributions based on the British person's image of various places in the United States.
Areas. It's almost like the Texas one. I'm pretty sure was a blue. Anyway, that's an aside. AI can't predict anything. Forget about it.
Yeah, I personally think.
Estimate.
He's gone big, Steve.
You can only come up with
he's so huge. I can't look at his face.
Information that it's
go back to your normal size, you ugly bastard.
Someone said, I think there's going to be an alien invasion. Then that's what it's going to take that into what it's predicting and what it's calculating in its algorithms and all that sort of stuff. Put a line through.
Sorry about that. That was a bit of a shock. So I think the actual thing wasn't actually. It was still working. That was a bit of a shock there. Steve suddenly got big. That was really quite stomach turning. I've gone back a little bit. So let's carry on and recap
what it's predicting and what it's calculating in its algorithms and all that sort of stuff. Put a line through this complete and utter.
All right, I must say, artificial intelligence generally, I think, is an overrated subject. Even Sabine has made a video saying, "Oh, has AI hit the wall?" I think it's. Then I don't think anytime soon they're going to be our robot overlords. It's a useful tool. It can be used for good or bad. They seem to be very good at working things out and reproducing various things. It could be a very useful tool, but as something that we need to worry about, I don't think so.
Nonsense. I'll be here next week making a video saying, "See, nothing happened. Told you." Guaranteed.
Well, I'm not going to make a special video about it, Steve, but I've got a feeling I'll be thinking the same thing as you.
I'm sitting in a different position today because the wind is blowing across where I was yesterday. And now it looks like the wind's moved around a bit, so hopefully it's not affecting the microphone, or it's not affecting the microphone too much. Okay, so forget, pardon me, anything to do with AI predicting anything. Generally, AI predictions are a steaming pile. The ones I've seen are hilarious, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, all they can do, these bots, as I said, is go through the internet, look at what people are saying and doing, and analyze that, which is not a prediction of things other than ways of seeing and ways of working out what various people are thinking about and talking about in the world. And AI bots are very good at that. They can do it better than anyone analyzing newspaper articles or watching various TV programs. They're very, very good at that. But predicting things like, weather events and meteor impacts and things that no one knows about, which would include like alien invasions, because the aliens, if they are invading, they'll plan in secret. Yeah, I mean, it's a steaming pile, as Steve says.
Really not worth worrying about. Anyone can make predictions. As I said earlier, you can predict there's going to be trouble in the Middle East. You can predict the sun will rise tomorrow. You can predict the phases of the moon.
Well, that's obviously easy to predict, because they always happen.
But anyone that can really predict the future would be predicting the winning numbers in next week's Powerball Lotto and getting themselves $100 million.
That happened in the film Back to the Future, didn't it?
And they would do that week after week after week. It's complete and utter rubbish. Nobody, including nobody or no thing, can accurately predict the future. Guesstimates, sure. Predictions, accurate predictions, no. So, put a line through AI, predicting an alien invasion next week. It's not going to happen.
Okay, I think this covers it all.
I'll be here next week telling you.
Okay, it's covered that. Now, I should point out that, I've done others. There are relevant videos I've made about this, which are related to Steve. And where is it? I did a video to Steve mumbling. I've done many reply videos to Steve mumbling. So many. I did 3 moon landing ones. Where is it? It's here. See, I used to do so many, man. It was great. It was great. Anyway, Space Force. I replied to Steve mumbling. I think this is a very interesting. This is a video you need to see probably as a bit of background, I would say. So check that out. Okay, now a lot of people online have been talking about this. Social media is a buzz, and I've been watching this guy. He's quite good, the Backyard Professor. He's a very ufologically interested guy. He talks about many subjects here, but he's particularly keen on UFOs at the moment, and he's addressed this in this particular. He's done 2 videos so far about this. They're quite long. He's actually a bit rambly, I must say.
The ignorance out, but I won't. My wife advised me against it, and I will follow her advice.
Kerry Shirts, his name is, but I do quite like this guy. He's quite likable, and he's discussed this in detail. He seems to have had many different ideas on it, but he's been reading watching Cliff High's video and responding to that. Now, I suppose there's an element I want to come into. We don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of days. I don't know what will happen. We could get hit by a giant asteroid or something like that. Who knows what could happen? The future is always never certain. Yeah, I mean, I personally agree with Steve mumbling. Like I said, it doesn't often happen, but I'm actually in agreement with Steve mumbling. I don't think we're going to see an alien invasion next week. But well, I'll be doing a live stream Tuesday evening, which is the earliest when this is estimated to happen. So if it happens, it might happen live on the air. As I said, there's that beat poem, "The revolution will not be televised, but it will be live streamed." Anyway, but there is an explanation I want to go into now. It's one I've covered many times before, but I'm going to outline it again. Maybe the reason that this web bot has had such a huge amount of success, or Cliff has come about by this conclusion, because this web bot is going all over the world, looking at everything everyone says online and working it out through AI, various trends and various themes and morphic ideas that are going through humanity. There is an explanation. There is an explanation that does make sense. It does mean that the alien invasion next week will happen, but with a twist. It's not really the aliens invading. It's a fake alien invasion. This, again, is something I've covered in my Space Force video, which is a reply to Steve Mumbling. Now, what is unmistakable that's going on at the moment is there has been, as I said at the beginning, just literally in the last few weeks, a massive surge in the number of UFO reports, sightings, videos, etc., etc., etc. Now, not all these reports are going to be real. I accept that, and of course, the more it enters the more it enters the world of public knowledge and public understanding and public discussion, the more it's going to. It's a kind of like it grows legs and it becomes a downward spiral, a feedback loop. So that more people talk, the more people talk about it, the more people will be thinking about it, the more they'll see something in the sky and think, oh, maybe that's aliens. And also, it also encourage and incite people to commit hoaxes as a result of this as well. So that we have to bear that in mind. However, it can't all be that. I don't think it's all that. There's this video by Ross Coulthart I want to talk about now. This is... there have been videos, like Mick West is debunking them, but there's been videos in Washington, D.C., supposedly they're reflections, although people actually report seeing something, and they say it's not just a reflection. What's interesting is in 1952, in the summer of 1952, there were a series of very, very significant UFO events in Washington, D.C. It was called the Washington Invasion. It seems it's happening again. Now, this is an interview here. We're just going to go into this with Ross Coulthart again. I should point out, as with Steve Mumbling's, I mean, Steve won't mind, but other people might, and the algorithms might. But, you know, I'm actually not, I'm claiming fair use on all of this, just to let you know.
That's embarrassing.
There was a really strong light. It lit up the entire cab of my cruiser to the point where I was having a hard time driving because I really couldn't see it. I was blinded by it.
No, that's not a balloon, is it?
It was a perfect sphere, and it almost looked like plasma moving constantly. And I was perplexed and confused at what I was looking at.
That is veteran Connecticut police officer Robert Klein describing what he says was a close encounter with a UFO. Take a look at this video. This is a reenactment of what...
See this? Just checking you can see this. You should be able to, yeah.
Officer Klein says he saw back in April of 2022, taken from his
I
description.
see, right. So it's not a recent one. It's like the thing at Manchester Airport, which was obviously made sometime in the summer, because of you can see green trees in the background.
He says he was barely into his overnight shift on a stretch of dark road that runs along a lake when his patrol car was filled with bright light that emanated from an object that was hovering near his car. The light changed colors several times, and then it zipped over the lake in the blink of an eye. Here to talk to us more about this alleged UFO sighting is News Nation special correspondent and investigative journalist Ross Coulthart. Ross, it's always good to see you. I want to get your immediate thoughts on this account from Officer Klein.
G'day, Natasha. Well, it's exciting because it looks like, when you see that fantastic reenactment that News Nation's done, it looks like something out of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You see the cabin of his cruiser filling up with light.
Of course, that happened to the character, didn't it? Richard Dreyfuss's character, Roy Neary, in the film. If you've not seen Close Encounters, please, for God's sake, go and watch it.
And then when he's got his faculties back, he looks out the window, and as he describes, it's this gigantic, pulsing, multicoloured orb. And it's quite extraordinary. But the thing I find fantastic is that an officer with the experience, 25 years experience of Robert Klein, showed the presence of mind and indeed the courage to feel okay about coming forward and talking about it publicly. I think that's the most significant and important thing, because frankly, these sightings are happening all the time. There's a huge intensity of sightings right now, many of them orange plasma balls like he described, and where he is
they're one of the most common types you see. It's just like, it's not a solid object, it's like a ball of light, literally.
is very close to one of the most important UFO sightings areas in US history, which is the Hudson Valley, where there was an enormous number of sightings 20 to 30 years ago.
I appreciate that context. And when it comes to Officer Klein's account, what would you say to anyone who is skeptical because he waited 2 years to come forward with this testimony?
Well, how do you deal with skeptics, Natasha? I mean, ultimately, they're just going to always say it can't possibly be, therefore it isn't.
Yeah, I know. I deal with them all the time, Ross.
There's a kind of a denialism in the face of overwhelming evidence. A lot of people say witness evidence isn't evidence. I don't agree. Witness evidence is evidence. We convict people based on witness evidence in our courts. It's very important evidence. And in this case, we have a very senior police officer, a man of high credit.
That film he made.
Who's worked for his community for 25 years. Why would he expose himself to public vilification and ridicule, or at least the risk thereof?
I mean, he's been filmed. He's filmed himself. He's done an interview with, you know, he wasn't like wearing a mask or anything. He wasn't pixelated out. His name's Robert Klein. He's a police officer. I mean, why would he wouldn't make something like this up? Or it doesn't look like something that could be a seagull or a weather balloon or anything like that. Or what's the latest thing? A drone.
Speaking about UFOs, all credit to him for showing the bravery about coming forward. I think we're moving beyond the period where these things get treated with default ridicule and contempt. I think the public are a lot wiser than we give them credit for. They can smell a rat when they see one. And I freely speak about the fact that I think the US government knows a lot more than it's revealing about what these objects are.
And for the sake of playing devil's advocate, do you think there are any immediate Earth origin explanations that come to mind for what he saw?
Okay, let's try that. It could be, say, a flare. The trouble is that what he described was instantaneous movement. He describes 1 minute it's over his patrol car, and the next minute, as he films with his video camera, it's zoomed instantaneously across the lake. Flares don't do that. Neither do aeroplanes, helicopters, or...
It could be ball lightning. I mean, ball lightning is a natural phenomenon, it appears. But it has no explanation. No, it appears to be some kind of electromagnetic effect similar to actual lightning, but there's no real, what's the word? There's no theory that explains how it works. It's where there's a lot of there's like a thunderstorm going on, and you get these like literally spheres of electrical energy or plasma. Which form and maintain themselves sometimes for several minutes in a normal way. What's even weirder, some people claim that these balls of plasma have an intelligence to them. They are actually able to move. They respond to your presence. For example, they'll move around you and things like that, or they'll stand. They'll wait till someone comes along and actually hover above you as if they're watching you. Things like that. But that's a big subject.
Or any other type of prosaic explanation. Could it be a meteor? Could it be a comet? Could it be a satellite? No. So all of the prosaic explanations that you'd normally look for to try and explain something like this, and you should, because quite often it's important to be skeptical. Quite often we do mistake things that are prosaic for abnormal or anomalous objects. And I think that the simple fact is, in this case, there is no explanation.
Have you ever seen this level of reports on social media before of people describing these witness firsthand accounts? And are they notably clustered in specific areas?
Natasha, the sightings at the moment are off the charts. So I've been talking to people from MUFON, and they're telling me that reports not only in the US over sensitive US military facilities, particularly facilities with nuclear weapons or nuclear power, but also over the United Kingdom, there are spates of what the US Air Force is continuing to describe as drone sightings over some of the most sensitive RAF, Royal Air Force bases in the United Kingdom. And we know, apocryphally, that they are bases where nuclear weapons are allegedly located, and they are shared with the US Air Force.
And why is that? Why is that happening now, Ross? See, I mean, this is the question. Why now of all times?
It's an issue of grave concern. In fact, it should be a national security concern that right now, over sensitive military facilities across the United States, as we've reported before, I think I've spoken to you about sightings over the Langley Air Force Base in Virginia, that we're now seeing those over the continental USA and across Europe, particularly in the United Kingdom. Sightings are off the charts. I've never had so many reports coming in. And a lot of them, intriguingly, Natasha, are orbs, plasma orbs with this distinctive orange-red colour that Officer Klein saw that evening in 2022.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find new.
I mean, I'll just give you an example here. Let's just give you an example here. Where was it? Here we go. Let's just see here. UFO sighting. Let's just see what we get if we just Google it in YouTube. UFO sighting. UFO sightings from the UK getting too much. UFO caught on camera 2 days ago over Capitol Hill. Angry. This is 2 hours ago. Oh, it's the angry astronaut. Yeah, he used to be a skeptic and now he's a believer. I wonder what nickname Steve will have for him. Angry films UFOs in the UK in the midst of a worldwide UAP outbreak. Oh, is he in this country at the moment? Yeah, I'll have to watch that later. UFO sighting caught. This is it's 5 years ago. 20 hours ago, UFOs terrorizing people. Eyewitness video, full breakdown. This is JWTV. And again, unexplained mysteries. Pilot. This is 1 day ago. This is the blue thing, the blue sphere that was at Manchester Airport sometime. That's Mick West. Easy if you put it on YouTube as well. Mysterious Lights 1 day ago by Mike Signorelli, another bloody Scotsman. New York Post 6 years ago. 6 years ago. Oh, that's Kaz. Hey, nice one. Oh, I've watched that. Yeah, you can see I've watched it. 4 months ago, 3 days ago, deleted live stream footage RAF Lakenheath. Oh, that's the UAP Files podcast. That we discussed that in the last video. So it begs the question: why now? Why is it happening now? At the same, is it connected? As I said in the video the other day or on Friday evening, the live stream. The drones live stream. Is it because there's this war threatening with Ukraine and in the Middle East, following the Trump victory in the election? I don't know. This is really weird here. Okay, I came across this in the New York Post. Oh, hang on, what's happening now? Right, here we go. Have a look at this. This is weird. Former UK official, I wonder who that is. Let me guess. I can neither confirm nor deny that. Former UK official reveals plans in case of alien invasion. This is by George Harrison. So that's what he got up to when he stopped making his solo career, back in the days when we were fab. Yeah. The chances of anything coming from Mars may be 1,000,000 to 1, but still, yeah. UK official reveals plan in case of alien invasion, and it is, of course, the one and only Nick Pope. He used to run the UFO desk, etc. No, I don't want to sign in. Drawing his experience from the MOD. He's even created a war plan which reflects how the British government would likely respond to an extraterrestrial attack. Although this has been mocked up by the Sun Online and isn't a real government document, Pope thinks it's what we'd have to do in the unlikely event of an alien invasion. Very unlikely, I assure you. The UFO investigator told the Sun Online, "I based the document as much on declassified plans of the Iraq War as on my knowledge of UFOs and extraterrestrial life. This is exactly the sort of top-level strategic document that politicians and senior officials need in order to take very rapid, important decisions." His prediction would see the UK ally itself with NATO and the United Nations and use our Air Force and Navy to hammer the aliens with missiles. Right. That's actually been tried before. It doesn't do much good. They don't seem to be affected. And he goes on to say, the war plan advised we should also develop a biological weapon to deal with living invaders. Oh, right. Well, funny enough, if you put the War of the Worlds, which is the original ultimate alien invasion story, published as a novel in 1897 by H.G. Wells, actually does it. It ends actually not with a biological weapon, but with natural biological effects of the Earth eventually taking their toll on the aliens. Now, yeah, I do recommend watching Independence Day. Now, this is not an endorsement of the film. It's an absolutely appalling film. It's one of the worst films I've ever seen. Totally overrated. It's one of the most hyped movies in all time, and it certainly doesn't deserve it. Certainly doesn't deserve it. But it is interesting to watch. It's interesting to watch because this essentially is a modern retelling of War of the Worlds, and what it's interesting from a political point of view because you see nations coming together as one to defeat the alien threat. Was it Ronald Reagan said to the United Nations? I sometimes think how much our differences would evaporate if we were faced from a threat by an alien threat from beyond this Earth. I don't have to play you the video. You've seen it. I know the words off by heart. But he asks, is not an alien threat already among us? What could be more alien than the threat of war, etc.? Well, he almost added that as an afterthought. But you see, like, for example, an Israeli and Israel, there's a scene where there's very few scenes in this film outside the American world, but you see an Israeli and an Iraqi fighter jet, two fighter jets, and they're taking off together to defeat put aside their differences. These are two countries that were very great enemies, but they put aside their differences to defeat the alien threat. So there's kind of international state of emergency, temporary, of course. And could that happen? Could that happen? Well, I mean, there was a chap called Serge Monast. He was a Canadian journalist who came up with this idea. He said he discovered Project Bluebeam, which basically said that the New World Order would be created by staging a kind of fake apocalypse using technology which can project images into the sky with laser beams and things like that. This is possible, by the way. This is perfectly possible. That can be done. It is possible to create holographic images in the open air using lasers. I've seen it done at Thorpe Park and at a place called Phantasialand in Germany. All you need to do is you need a laser beam that can and attach to a computer to create control pulses at certain points. You need some kind of medium to project it onto, like a three-dimensional projector screen, which could be something as simple as a cloud of mist or gas or smoke. It could be something just basically something to act as a board, as a reflector. That's all you need. And you can create a very, very realistic, solid-looking image in the sky in open air, in just the open air. It can be done. Now, Serge Monast, interestingly enough, he died of a heart attack at the age of 51 in 1996. A heart attack. I expect it was probably a 9mm heart attack in the back of his head. Yes. They always die of, it's either heart attacks or suicides or things like that, aren't they? He was actually imprisoned. He was actually in jail for a while. And he did predict that he would be assassinated at certain points. And it makes you wonder why. But anyway, you can read his book if you want to. I think it's been PDF'd now. I've not actually read his book, but it does exist. And another thing that's worth watching is this. Prepare now. Former FBI agent predicts fake alien attack. This is in redacted. This is redacted. And this is John D'Souza, who you may know has been in several of Dr. Stephen Greer's documentaries. And I won't play the whole thing, but there is this Instagram clip here, which I'll just play for you. There we go.
Want any sovereign states. They want a global environment that they control.
Let me just refresh it so you can see it from the beginning. You can see this, I hope. All right. I'll just put that.
Chess, the deep state, the cabal. What they want, the World Economic Forum. They want control. They want a control of our money supply. They don't want any sovereign states. They want a global environment that they control.
And how they
unelected leaders. What do they want in this situation where they would want to start taking down aircraft? What do you know from your experience in the FBI?
The long-term goal is ultimately to put together this grand operation called fake alien invasion. The only fake part about it is going to be that the alien visitors are involved with this. Everything else is going to be real. The destruction that they bring to our cities is going to be real.
Yeah. Like I said, that's just a little clip there. You can watch the whole thing here. John D'Souza has this book here, The Extra Dimensionals, True Tales of and Concepts of Alien Visitors. I've not actually read this, but it looks interesting. It does look very interesting. I'm currently reading other things at the moment. I don't have time to read any more books. I'm a slow enough reader as it is. But yeah, I'm just going through my notes here. That's done. That's done. That's done. I'm just putting little crosses on these things when I do them. Where bot's done. Project Bluebeam done. Now, as I said, I do recommend watching that Redacted with Clayton Morris on the Redacted channel with John D'Souza. He talks about several things. So the points they go through are he says John D'Souza claims that the X-Files, actually Chris Carter, who created the X-Files, managed to get some of his ideas from the cases. And in fact, Chris Carter was contacted by the FBI and they said, well, how do you know all these things? Because your TV show, especially in the first season, is so close to the kind of things that we've been investigating. And John D'Souza was involved in that. So he says, Clayton says, well, maybe this is just to get money for the US Space Force and basically to raise military spending. I've made this point before, that if the Department of Defense in the US wants extra money, they don't have to invent alien threats to get it. There are far more mundane and prosaic reasons that they can come up with, fake or real, to get more tax money out of the coffers. And indeed, the Ukraine and Israeli situation surely is enough. The Taiwan thing as well. Surely that's enough. You don't have to. You can come up with. You don't have to invent very elaborate and very outlandish reasons to steal money from American taxpayers. D'Souza claims that the Nimitz footage, the craft you see, the Tic Tac, the gimbal, the Go Fast, etc., are all ARVs. In other words, alien reproduction vehicles. They are fake alien craft. And again, fake alien craft. This is a concept that you find in my book, Roswell Rising: A Novel of Disclosure, available at all good bookshops now, priced £10. You do actually find that does come up if you read that book. Definitely, it will come up in that as well. I am not so sure, because he claims that the Nimitz footage from 2004 was released in 2017 deliberately. And Greer makes this point as well. And Elizondo is a shill, etc., etc., to create the whole phenomenon that we call new ufology. And the aliens aren't real. This footage is not of real aliens. The footage is of basically an experimental interaction with the US Navy to test the sailors and how the military would react to the arrival of aliens in their sphere, how they would deal with it, real extraterrestrials. And secondly, to see how the public, 15 years later, to see how the public would respond. It was simply a psychological experiment, and they used anti-gravity drones to confuse and disrupt the Nimitz exercise. I personally doubt that, because for various reasons I've explained before. Again, it's the antiquity of the phenomenon. It goes back long before any idea of fake alien invasion could happen. And there's also, there's other reasons as well, which I've gone into in detail many times before. But I don't necessarily believe this is true. It could be, though. It could be. It can't be ruled out. But we have to tread a narrow path between excessive cynicism and excessive naivety. Because, of course, if this is a fake alien invasion and they're preparing the ground, they're conditioning the public with various ciphers in the media, yeah, we have to be alert for that. But at the same time, if these things are really alien, if it's really extraterrestrial things that are being released to the public, and this is a push for willing disclosure, it's conditioning the public for willing disclosure for benevolent reasons, that's an opportunity we can't afford to miss. John D'Souza claims that planes are going to be shot down. No one mentioned MH370, please. I've got 2 whole videos about that. No, literally shot down by aliens openly. That's what he says. But it won't really be aliens. As the little clip says, the destruction will be real. He claims that real ETs are benevolent. So when they sort of appear over nuclear missile sites, like at Rendlesham Forest or Minot Air Force Base, excuse me, Captain Salas and what he said, They're doing that for benevolent intentions. But as I said in the last video, we don't know that for certain. We don't know if their interests in our nuclear weapon system are because they want to protect us from threat of our own warlike activities, or whether these are reconnaissance craft gauging our most potent weapon systems because they want their own invasion. I mean, what if there's a real alien invasion? You see what I mean? He also claims that real UFOs can't be shot down. This is, Sousa says, you know, if real UFOs exist, but they can't be shot down. They only take physical form very briefly, then they go back to plasma. That's actually not true. I think they can be shot down. So yeah, that's something I disagree with him on. Now, where are we now? Okay. And of course, we must not forget the Apocalyptics. Remember the Apocalyptics? This is a video I made in 2012, the London Olympic Stadium. Do you remember this T-shirt? London 2012, we're ready. Does anyone have this? Does anyone still have one of these T-shirts? I mean, you could print another one, I suppose, if you wanted. But this idea became so popular of the Olympics being the scene for a fake alien invasion that it was even in the mainstream media. Nick Pope wrote an article about it because he said there was a computer game dealing with this. And this is way back. This was back in 2012. So much so that I suspect that possibly they were going to do it, but it was cancelled. However, I just want to play you a little clip from this. Now, this is another piece of essential viewing, I think. This is Project Zion, presented by the late, great Ian R. Crane, recorded in Santa Cruz, California, May the 15th, 2010. This is one of Ian's great achievements. Now, I've looked for this online. There are versions of this online, but they've been edited. Ian actually edited them himself after the 2012 phenomenon proved not to be what he thought it was, including the Olympics. Because of course that thing to do with the Olympics never happened. But I'm just going to play you a little clip from this. By the way, you know, if you can get a full version of this, do let me know online, because this is why you've got to get the DVDs, guys. Get the DVDs of things. Don't rely on online stuff. Let me just play you this little clip here from Ian. Here we go. It'll just warming up. It's a DVD.
So this is the quote. It has been hotly argued that an external menace would offer the last best hope for peace by uniting mankind against the danger of destruction by creatures from other planets or from outer space. And you think, oh my God, that sounds incredible. It's outrageous. But you know what? Reagan, I think, was maybe trying to give somebody a heads up here. Because on numerous occasions in his tenure, and certainly in 1988, I think on at least half a dozen occasions, he made this is actually a quote from a speech that he gave at the United Nations. And he said, "Is not an alien force already amongst us? What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our peoples than war and the threat of war?" And of course, the reality is that, you know, war is not part of our natural humanity.
No, it always has to be manipulated. Yeah. Wars, people say, well, war's inevitable. Well, maybe to a certain extent, but all the major wars of the world that I've looked into historically, you'll find they have to essentially be pulled up by their bootstraps. They don't just happen naturally as a course of events. They have to be engineered.
Worked in the oil industry, I mean, one of the things that I know without any shadow of doubt is that people of all nations, all creeds, all philosophies, all backgrounds can come together and focus on what they have in common, not what they have as differences. And then, obviously, our political leaders come along and create the distraction. And we'll see more of that later. Now, Len Horowitz.
So, yeah, I mean, basically what he's saying here is that if all else fails in terms of manipulation, and we've had various things that have been tried. We had the C word, with the disease, followed by the V word, the treatment, which a large number of people said no to. And remember Carol Rosin? The last card, the last card, the last card. I don't have to play you that because you've seen it so many times before. "You will stop the weaponization of space," said Werner von Braun to her in 1977, after he predicted the end of the Cold War within 10 years, which happened. So is the last card they play, if all else fails, a fake alien invasion? Would they do that? Yes, they would. They would. They could. They have the technology. They have the technology to predict holograms in the sky. Although John D'Souza thinks that won't happen. I think it will. But John is right when he says they have the technology to create alien spacecraft, which look or to create aircraft that look like what we would say are flying saucers, and they're completely man-made. This happens in this book by me, Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure, available at all good bookshops, priced £10. Yeah. And it's 2 sequels, making the Roswell trilogy. Now, what Ian is talking about there, Report from Iron Mountain, was a book released in 1967, and this is an article, Iron Mountain to Raise Uproar by Leonard Sanders. Dial Press has a book, you can read this here, has a book published November the 30th that reads like a psychedelic nightmare of George Orwell's 1984 or Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that they connect those two together. Huxley, of course, being Orwell's school teacher. Yes. In essence, the book Report from Iron Mountain is by Leonard C. Lewin, maintain on the possible desirability for peace. Lasting peace. Disarmament and the disbanding of armies would be a catastrophe of staggering proportions. The report warns that the war system cannot responsibly be allowed to disappear until we know exactly what we plan to put in its place. Are we certain beyond reasonable doubt that these substitute institutions will serve the purposes in terms of the survival and stability of society? Survival and stability of society means keeping their control over us. Yes, the author understandably chooses to remain anonymous. Yeah, the Leonard C. Lewin is not his real name, but he's a New York freelance writer, and we don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he's probably not alive now. But in 1963, the professor was asked by the government to participate in this study. Yeah. Now, basically, it's a secret meeting. Now, the term Iron Mountain is code because there is no such mountain called Iron Mountain. It's a secret meeting somewhere at a certain place. And yeah, I'll go back to the screen share here because this basically gives an outline of the thing. I don't know if you've actually, and Ian gives a good summary of it. I don't know if you actually read it yourself. The report suggests that flying saucer incidents may be the result of experiments of this kind. That is to manipulate people psychologically. And it also mentions interestingly the threat of environmental damage. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Now, it's important to realize that this article here, it says here approved for release the first of, or is it the, sorry, it's the, in 2004, 11/01. I think that means the 11th of January because these are American dates that are back to front. So this was classified by whom, I wonder? Classified by whom? Well, just get a look at the URL. Where did I get this PDF from? CIA.gov, reading room. That article was classified by the CIA and was only released to the public 20 years ago, referring to something that happened in the 60s, referring to a book that was published in the 60s. My God. Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God, indeed. God Almighty. Way down on that Swanee River. Yeah, so I think that's it now. Go back to my notes and double check, but I think I've covered everything there. Yeah, the Apocalyptics, last articles from the CIA, Apocalyptics, last best hope for peace. That's Ian R. Crane's Project Zion, essential reading material. That's everything in my notes now. Yes, except I'll do a separate. I will do a separate notice for this, but I'm doing a live stream Tuesday evening at 9 o'clock. All right, so when you're watching this, make a note. Tuesday evening, 9 p.m. There's going to be a live stream because, well, it might be the last video I ever make, and if I want to face the, if I want to have fire and brimstone, and laser beams raining down from the heavens from Andromedan scout ships, real or fake, I'd like to share that moment with you, my viewers, my readers, my listeners. Let us exit this world together, and the survivors can live in their new world order created by the coming together of nations into one super government to create a state of emergency. Temporary, of course. Nothing's more permanent than a temporary government program. And I don't know if I'm being ironic because I actually agree with Steve mumbling here. I will watch Cliff High's video from beginning to end just to be on the safe side. But I personally agree with Steve mumbling. I don't think we've got anything to worry about here. I think it's a storm in the teacup. But just in case, I'm going to do that live stream. And even if it's wrong, it's always worth doing the live stream because it'll be a bit of fun, won't it? It'll be a bit of fun. So I think that's everything now until Tuesday evening. Thank you all for watching Her Panwo TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order.